Hello everyone and welcome to the Digital Champion HQ, the place for all things Digimon. Today we're going to be doing another Digivolution Line video featuring Dorumon. Dorumon is personally one of my favorite Digimon. I know I say that a lot, but hey, I love Digimon and this one is no exception. As always, I will be covering all the main forms of this Digimon from in training all the way up to Mega and beyond. I will not be covering some of the side variants where it may go into other Digimon Digivolution lines. For example, Dex Dorugamon. I will be making a separate video on the Dex variants of Dorumon, so be sure to hit that subscribe button to stay up to date, as that video will be coming out shortly after this one. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right in. First up, we have the fresh level slime Digimon, Dodomon. Dodomon is a carrier of the X antibody. Its whole body is covered in a tough fur named mithril hair. It manifests an aggressive personality immediately after being born, and despite its fangs not yet being grown, it opens its mouth wide and completely intimidates the opponent with the manner in which it snaps at them. Because of this, there exist many Digimon which are completely deceived, but it is still a rare Digimon. His most notable attack includes Little Iron Beads, in which Dodomon spits small iron beads from its mouth at an approaching opponent. Overall, I really like Dodomon's design. It's pretty adorable. Yeah, I really like when they add a little bit of extra detail to these baby level Digimon. So having the extra fur and everything, you can definitely see where eventually it'll digivolve into Dorumon. As for the backstory, I like that this is obviously a Digimon who carries the X antibody ever since, he was the main star of the Digimon X movie, so obviously he has the X antibody. As well as I like the fact that he is a more aggressive Digimon, and that he has this kind of mythological mithril hair that's protecting its body. It's really cool. Alright, so Dodomon digivolve to Dorimon. Dorimon is an in-training lesser Digimon and is also the carrier of the X antibody. It can run very quickly if it is going straight. It is often running wild because it hates to be domesticated, and it is dangerous because it will recklessly charge and perform a ramming attack if approached. Its ears have grown sharp and hard, and because they also act as horns, there is some small damage from its ramming attacks. However, it can't turn when going at full speed. His most notable attacks include Metal Drop, in which Dorimon spits an iron bead from its mouth while charging at the opponent. His other attack, Frothy Spit, in which Dorimon spits acid foam at an enemy. Overall, I really like this design. It's very similar to the baby form Dodomon. It's basically the same thing, except now he has some legs. As for the backstory, again, carries the X antibody and a little bit more offensive power, it would seem, with his ears kind of acting as horns as well. So, Dorimon digivolves to Dorumon. Dorumon is a rookie-level beast Digimon who is a carrier of the X antibody. Because it has an old-style interface on its brow, it is presumed to be an experimental prototype Digimon from before Digimon were discovered. The personality of natural combat species Digimon manifests particularly strong within it, so its combat instinct is high, and it often barks and snaps at everything, but it seems that it was tamed by someone it once bit. The data that it is said to have been hidden within the deepest parts of its digicore during an experiment is the potent life force data of the legendary beast, the dragon, and it is said that it has the potential to grow into a mighty Digimon. His most notable attacks include Dash Metal, in which Dorumon fires an iron sphere from its mouth while charging. Metal Cannon. Dorumon stands still and accumulates power, then fires a more powerful iron sphere from its mouth, finally Hyper Dash Metal, in which Dorumon takes a strong tackle with even higher speed at its opponent. Overall, I love this design. It's definitely a very clear continuation of the previous two forms. I like the fact that it has this cool little, it calls it an emblem on its head, which I really like. It kind of reminds me of the, not quite, but kind of the hazard symbol that like Digimon has. Anything that kind of alludes to some sort of extra lore in the digital world that they can incorporate into a Digimon design, I really appreciate. I also like its little kind of baby dragon wings that eventually are going to grow. As for the backstory, again, more X antibody lore here. I like the fact that it's kind of this prototype Digimon, as it says here. So it's one of potentially the first Digimon ever to be created in the digital world. I mean, that's a pretty big deal. This definitely makes Dorumon kind of one of the ancestral Digimon. I would love for them to explore a little bit more on that, because in the movie we don't really get too much of the backstory with Dorumon, just that he is the carrier of the antibody. Alright, so moving on, Dorumon digivolves to Dorugamon. Dorugamon is a champion level beast type Digimon, and it is a carrier of the X antibody. It is a ferocious Digimon that possesses the disposition of a beast and a dragon, and is such a heavy weight that most Digimon run away just at the sight of its shadow. Although it exhibits the ferocity of a wild beast when it comes to battle, it also has the intelligence of a dragon, and is usually very docile. Because it has an old-style interface on its brow, it is presumed to be a digivolution of a prototype Digimon. His most notable attacks include Cannonball, in which Dorugamon fires a large iron sphere from its mouth while charging, and Fighting Spirit, where Dorugamon stands still and accumulates power, then fires a large, more powerful iron sphere from its mouth. So overall, I love this design. It's basically the continuation of Dorumon with a little bit of a darker color scheme, moving away from the purple, moving to a darker kind of black and bluish undertone there. Still has the awesome emblem that I like on its head, and his wings have now grown even more, kind of like a complete form, if you will. Now, as for the backstory, there's not a whole lot more other than the fact that its fighting prowess is essentially grown since his Dorumon days, but they do mention here that he also has a pretty high intellect, and that most other Digimon are fearful of him and will run just at the sight of his shadow, so he's kind of a big deal. Alright, so Dorugamon digivolves to DoruGreymon. DoruGreymon is an ultimate level beast dragon type Digimon who is a carrier of the X antibody. It is a massive Digimon whose form was released through the interface on its brow by the potent life force data of the legendary beast, the dragon, which slept within the deepest parts of its digicore, and that holds the alias of the final enemy. With its overwhelming stature, it can demolish any dauntlessly courageous Digimon, and even the attacks of the nightmare soldiers are deflected with one sweep of its wing. As it is highly intelligent, it won't reveal its existence carelessly, so it is difficult to even detect it. Dorugremon's most notable attacks include Metal Meteor, in which it fires a supermassive iron sphere more than 10 times its own size, crushing the opponent with one hit, and Bloody Tower, in which Dorugaramon skewers the opponent before flinging them up into the sky. Overall, this design is amazing. It moves away from the dark kind of black or blue, purple color scheme and goes full on red and black, which is an awesome color scheme, and it also has a tinge of gold on there as well. I really like the horn, the metal, I guess like razor blade sword thing it has for a horn is really cool, and overall the design is awesome, definitely starting to look much more like a dragon. As for the backstory, I really like the fact that this is essentially like Dorumon kind of embracing its inner dragon, as it kind of says here in the backstory, and that its dragon form is unleashed from that interface that's on Dorumon's head is really cool. And the fact that it's so powerful, it's able to essentially deflect attacks from the Nightmare Soldier Digimon is a pretty big deal. So it definitely has a pretty big type advantage against Nightmare Soldier type Digimon. Alright, so moving on. DoruGreymon digivolves to Dorugoromon. Dorugoromon is a dragon-type Digimon that carries the X antibody. It is an imaginary Digimon born from the daydream of a Digicore. It is a form that had even the Digicore's own creativity released through the interface on its brow, and digivolved, possibly because it naturally possessed the potent life force data of the legendary beast the dragon within its Digicore. The form created by its Digicore is a mighty avatar of destruction, and was an incarnation of the final enemy. Dorugoromon's most notable attacks include Supreme Courage, in which he puts its body and soul into a terrifying assault, as well as Dorujin, in which Dorugoromon releases a destructive shockwave. Overall, I love this design. It is very reminiscent of even like a Royal Knight design, and what I mean by that is it kind of has a bit more extra detail, which usually kind of comes with the Royal Knights. But you can definitely see the progression here from the previous Dorumon, and you can definitely see the inspiration it takes from the Dex Doruman line as well. And this is kind of like the sort of purified version of that line, which I really like. I would really like to see some more of Dorugoromon in the anime in the future. Hopefully they will do something with him, because this is a very cool looking Digimon line. So here's to hoping. And as for the backstory, it's kind of interesting that Dorugoromon is essentially this made up Digimon, essentially, that came from the quote daydream of a Digicore. So essentially it's this mythical dream-like Digimon that is a type of incarnation of, quote, the final enemy. It has a pretty neat backstory overall. I was debating on whether or not to put this other Digivolution in this video, because there is another Digimon line that he fits into, but I figure I will include him in both of them, mostly because he is featured in the Digimon movie, so I feel that I should at least mention him, and that Digimon is Alphamon. So Alphamon is a mega level warrior Digimon who is also the carrier of the X antibody. While it is one of the Royal Knights, it is said that to the Holy Knights it is a being similar to a deterrent force. And as it doesn't appear in normal times, it is also called the Aloof Hermit, who flutters a blue mantle, and is the Royal Knight assigned to the place called the Empty Seat. Because it possesses the Alpha Enforce ability, an ultimate force which, in battle, instantaneously replays the elapsed battle. Although Alphamon's attacks are over in just an instant, you can't grasp how many attacks it actually unleashed, and in theory, you can only see the final blow that brought down its opponent. It can deploy a magic circle of digicode from its hand to perform offense and defense. It wields the Divine Sword Grade Alpha, which is based on Greymon's sword. His most notable attacks include Divine Sword Grade Alpha, in which Alphamon draws out a convergence of light that was pierced into the center of a magic circle and stabs it through the opponent. Digital Eyes of Soul spreads the wings on its back and flies up high, then deploys a magic circle even larger than the sky, with which it summons a legendary monster from another dimension. So overall, this design is awesome. It is one of the Royal Knights. So of course, just by that alone, I have to love it. I love the Royal Knights so much. I plan on doing a video on all the Royal Knights soon, so be sure to hit that subscribe button to stay tuned for that. Now, like I said, design really cool. I love the black and gold color scheme a lot. It definitely goes a different route from the standard Dragon Digimon that the forums kind of took inspiration from previously, so I was kind of debating whether or not to throw him in here, but I did it anyways just because I love Alphamon, and I'll go over him again in the other video that I plan on doing in the future. As for the backstory, I mean, he's awesome. He's basically one of the, if not the most powerful digital Royal Knight, and it pretty much says as much here in the backstory, but he definitely does not show up very often, rarely ever, and in most media he is kind of portrayed as a villain other than the Digimon X movie, but I know in a couple of the games he's kind of against humanity and on the side of Digimon, so that's pretty interesting as well. As for honorable mentions for the side evolutions that Dorumon can go through, obviously you have the Dex Dorugamon line, and you have the Reptiledramon line and the Greymon line, but I'll be making separate videos on each of those Digivolution lines because there's a lot to go through and cover there, so be sure again to hit that subscribe button to stay tuned for that. And alright guys, so that is it for the Dorumon Digivolution line. I hope that you all enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments down below which one of these Dorumon Digimon that you like the best. Personally, mine has to be Dorugoromon, but DoruGreymon is a close second for me. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to hit that like button, that subscribe button as well, even that bell button to be notified whenever I post a new video, as it really does help the channel out a lot. Be sure to also share this video with any of your other friends that enjoy Digimon, and I'll see you guys on the next Digital Champion HQ vid. Bye!